Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. I'm coming to you from Nelson, British Columbia this morning, and I have a short practice for us today designed to really let go. And we are looking at letting go of that chronic tension that we hold in the low back. We'll be in towards tightness in the hips a little bit here today, as well as getting in a little bit to your hamstrings. So let's have a couple of blocks for this practice, and we're going to get started today with a therapy ball or tennis ball. So go ahead and grab your things, grab a blanket if you'd like to have a blanket, and I will meet you on your mat. So we're going to come onto this therapy ball or tennis ball. If you have a really long shirt, it might behoove you to tuck it in. I know when we start taking that tennis ball or therapy ball to the glutes, if you've got a long shirt, it tends to get rolled up in the shirt. So let's go ahead and take that therapy ball underneath your right or left glute. You're going to lean back on your hands here for just a moment. We won't be here long. I know it's a lot of pressure on the wrists, but let's take a moment just to start to get some circulation moving to these tissues that, quite frankly, sit between your low back and your hamstrings. Quite frankly, quite literally, right? So when we start to get this lubrication and hydration to these tissues, we're also increasing hydration and lubrication to your low back. And we're going to start to move into what we call your posterior chain of connective tissue. So take just another moment on this side, and then we're going to switch it out to the other side. I never like to keep us here very long because we do have a lot of weight on your wrists right now. But take just another moment or two. This is all that we're going to be using your therapy ball or tennis ball for today. So at this point, let's go ahead and come off of that ball, and you can just let that ball go off to the side. And let's start to make our way down onto our backs. And once you come down onto your back, pause here for a moment. Maybe walk those feet wide, let your knees drop in towards center. This is a really simple way to release low back tension. So if you're someone who carries a lot of chronic stress, chronic tightness in the low back, just coming down onto your back, walking your feet wide and letting your knees drop in towards center and staying here for about 3 or 4 minutes can go a long way in releasing and letting go. For today's purposes, we're going to pause here for a moment to close our eyes, to let ourselves begin to land and to locate ourselves in time and in space. Find a few more rounds of breath, and maybe we take our awareness to our breath. Maybe this is the first time today that we've connected to our breath. So without needing to alter or change it, let's just notice it. Have some gratitude for it. And then begin to walk your feet in so that they're hip distance apart. And we're going to bring our knees in towards our chest, and you'll take your hands to cup your knees, and we'll start to find some mixer knees. Remember, that means that one knee is moving clockwise and the other knee is moving counterclockwise. Really, we're using the head of your femur bone, your thigh bone right now to kind of stir the acetabulum. That's the hip socket. Get that synovial fluid moving around in the hips, lubricating the hip joint. You can change directions of your mixer knee circles every once in a while here. But I also want you to start to notice that as we move your legs in time and space, we're also forward and posteriorly tilting your pelvis, right? So as the knees move away, the pelvis kind of tips forward. And as the knees come in towards your chest, the pelvis rolls back. Take a couple more moments here. So we're also getting a little bit of movement into your lumbar spine. And then go ahead and meet me with your knees back in towards center. And we're going to take your hands now and you're going to sandwich them between your hamstrings and your calves. Let's let the knees go out wide. And start to find kind of a modified happy baby here. We're going to stretch your left leg out to the left. So getting that nice big first initial stretch to hamstrings, maybe a little bit of your adductors, your inner thighs. You can point and flex that left foot, right? Moving through a little plantar and dorsiflexion. You could also internally and externally rotate. So a little pronation and supination. And then we could combine all of those movements. And really, it's just a fancy way to say circle your ankle, right? If we started kind of circling the knees, which is really moving through your hip joints, let's just get a little bit of movement here through the joint of your ankle. And then go ahead and bring that left foot in and let's take it over to the right. So nice big initial stretch here. Hamstrings, inner thighs on the right side. And again, you're taking some moments to just enjoy finding some movement through the ankle joint here on your right side. All right, let's go ahead and bring that right foot in. And one more time, just stretch it out to the left. Bring your left foot back in. And one last time, we'll stretch it out to the right. And then go ahead and bring that right foot back in. Bring your knees back in towards your chest. And this time we're going to keep your left knee. You're going to release your right foot to the floor in a constructive rest. So take your interlaced hands and kind of reach around that left thigh. It's almost like our Apanasana, right? We're just really hugging and squeezing that left knee towards your chest. And this is actually a low back release. So we might pause here, right? Starting to move a little bit into the outer hips, but also really getting in towards that muscle that we refer to as your QL, your quadratus lumborum. We're going to start to lift the head and heart, and you're going to be bringing your nose towards your left knee. So we're kind of curling into a tiny little ball here on your left side. And then on your next inhale, stretch the left leg all the way out, lower your head and heart, open those arms up overhead like a big Y. And then we're going to do that again. You're going to exhale, curl. And inhale, stretch it back out. Let's do maybe 4 more of these. So exhale, curl. Inhale, stretch. Exhale, curl. And inhale, stretch. All right, 2 more. And last one. And then go ahead and we'll meet here with that left leg extended and your arms reaching out. Then you can start to slide that left leg back into your constructive rest. And we'll switch sides. So let's bring that right knee in towards your chest. Keep your head and heart to the floor here to start. Interlace your hands around your shin and just pause and really enjoy this sense of squeezing and hugging your right knee towards your chest. Feels so good. And then let's start to curl your nose towards your knee. And on your next inhale, stretch the right leg out, lower head and heart, reach those arms out wide. And then exhale, curl. Inhale, stretch. And exhale, curl. Few more. Last one here. And then we're going to meet each other in that supine position. Arms are reaching up and out. Right leg is extended out on the mat. And from here, you can start to drag the sole of your right foot back so that you're back in your constructive rest with both legs. Go ahead and bring your arms back down along your side body. We're going to roll onto your right or your left. Press through your hands and start to bring yourself all the way back up. And once you're in your upright position, let's come into a bound angle, but let's do it facing the long edge of your mat. So I'm already there. You might need to turn so that you're orienting yourself towards the long edge of your mat. But once we get here, let's take the inner blades of your feet to touch, or the soles of your feet, I should say. Knees go out wide, so we're in a seated Baddha Konasana. Remember that we're going to keep your heels of your feet a little further away from the perineum, so you have this nice shape between your legs, this nice big diamond shape here. And then go ahead and take your hands, cup your hands around your shins. We're going to pick one direction and we're going to start to find our torso circles. So maybe you're starting in a clockwise direction, maybe you're going counterclockwise, but let's just start to stir the pot. Right? It's almost like we're stirring the torso in the pelvic bowl, which is why we call this stirring the pot. But maybe you're also starting to find some extension and flexion in your back, right? A little bit of cat, a little bit of cow, right? You can also kind of roll over your glutes here so we get a little more myofascial release, right? That area where we had the therapy ball at the beginning of practice. Just keep going in this direction, right? We're also getting a little bit more stretch into your inner thighs, your adductors, and hopefully a little bit more of that posterior anterior tilt to your pelvis, right? As we're moving the pelvis tips forward and then it tips back. Do one or two more circles in this direction. I'm going to do two, and then I'll meet you back at center. So let's remember which direction we started in. I started in a counterclockwise direction. We're going to pause here. We're going to keep your left leg in the external rotation, but I want you to lift your right leg. And then I want you to internally rotate the right leg and come into your deer pose. We're going to start in deer pose here. So you're nestling your right knee into the sole of your left foot. But once we come into the deer pose, we're actually going to adjust this a little bit. I want you to take that left leg and you're going to open it out. So we come into what we call 90-90. You're going to have that left shin kind of lining up with your right thigh. And you're going to notice that you probably have a lot more weight on your left sitting bone, and you might have even a little bit of space underneath your right. I know that I do. So we're going to play with just seeing what it would be like to drop that right sitting bone to the floor. Maybe it gets there, maybe it doesn't. You might notice, like I do, that my left knee comes up, and then go ahead and rock it back. And then rock down, so right sitting bone in the direction of the earth, and then rock it back. And let's just start to find this little interesting movement pattern. And we'll just notice the range of motion that we have when we're moving in this way. It's a really new movement pattern. So new movement patterns are really good for creating new neural connections. So let's just rock forward and back here a couple more times. Notice what there is to notice. Maybe there's a lot of range of motion. Maybe there's not a lot. All right, go ahead and pause here. Maybe come back to that starting point so you have more weight on that left sitting bone. I want you to think about your sternum, right? This space where the ribs meet up. Turn to frame your left leg with your sternum. And then from here, we're going to fold forward. So you're going to fold right over that thigh bone. And I want you to find that first edge of resistance, right? So we're not pushing our body. We're actually just going to meet that first sign of resistance. And then you're going to adjust your head so that you have length in the back of your neck, right? So lengthen your whole spine. And we might come to start our mantra of letting go. Right, so notice if you're holding your breath here. This is a pretty deep and delicious outer hip stretch, but notice if you're holding your breath. And if you are, maybe we do a nice big intentional in-breath through the nose A big open mouth exhale, and we start to find that mantra of let go, let go, let go. Right? If we are holding our breath, it's hard for us to let go. So as we're here, as we're settling in, some really conscious, engaged breath cycles, repeating that mantra to ourselves, let go, let go, let go. We start to open up the hips. We start to release tension in the low back, releasing tension that we might be holding in areas of our body that we're not even aware. Do one more round of breath here. And then we're going to use our arms like little kickstands to start to walk ourselves all the way back up. And you can face your legs again, and we'll come back into the deer pose. So you're actually going to bring that left foot back in. And then from here, let's take your right leg and just swing it out and around so that you're coming into your Sukhasana with your right shin in front of your left. And we're going to start to take this into your side body, but with the aim of coming a little bit more into your low back. So let's inhale, sweep your arms all the way up. Keep your right arm lifted, let your left hand come down, and let's start to spider walk your left fingertips over to the left. All right, from here, I just want you to pause and I want you to notice what your spine is doing. And if we're overarching the spine to be here, gently pull your navel back towards your spine. And then we're going to take a bend into that left elbow. You're going to start to let your left forearm go all the way to the floor. And this may seem really counterintuitive, but as your forearm goes to the floor, you need to lift that right sitting bone up off the earth. Go ahead and give yourself permission to do that. And then we're going to press through your left hand and you're going to float back up. And we're going to cartwheel right on over to the other side. And then we're just going to keep cartwheeling side to side with our motion is lotion mantra. We're definitely going to keep your navel gently pulling back towards your spine. And as we continue to rock side to side, we might start to notice that we need to lift that opposite sitting bone less and less as we rock this side to side, because we're really creating a little more space in real time. Remember that the key here is to keep that front core gently engaged so that we're not dumping all of our upper body weight into our low back, but we're actually starting to stretch into your low back. Take just another moment, and then we're going to meet each other back at center. And you can start to float those hands all the way down to your side body. I want you to keep that left leg in the external rotation, but we're going to lift that right leg again. And we're going to come back into the deer pose one more time here on this side. So bringing that right knee to the sole of your left foot. All right, this time I want you to take both of your hands and plant your hands to the left. So you're kind of pointing all 10 fingertips towards the top of your mat, or maybe that's the back of your mat, but let's just have all 10 fingertips shining towards the short end of your mat. And now we've got this nice little stretch in the abdomen, in the viscera. We're going to pause here. You're going to start to drop your right ear to your right shoulder. It's getting a little more lateral stretch in your spine here, all the way from the base of your skull down towards your sacrum. Go ahead and start to roll your chin towards your sternum. And it might be interesting to take that left ear to your left shoulder now. And then rock chin back to sternum and go right ear to right shoulder. And then go chin to sternum, and let's just meet here. You can lift your head, place it back on top of your spine. And I want you to think about your back leg, which is your right leg. We're going to start to stretch that right leg all the way back and then roll in the direction of the ball mounds of your foot. You might not get all the way to the ball mounds, but your intention is to head in that direction. You're going to press through your hands, lift your hips, and let's step that left foot back to meet the right. From here, you can lift your hips up and back, and we'll come into downward facing dog. Take some moments to pedal and stretch, right? Getting in a little bit deeper to your calves. We're in a lot of dorsiflexion in your feet right now. So maybe we take some moments to kind of alternate lifting heels, stretching your feet, right? That's also a part of your posterior chain, the soles of your feet, the area around your Achilles, moving into the area around your calves. Maybe some of us are still feeling a pretty deep stretch in the hamstrings. All right, go ahead and pause in your downward facing dog. Let's do a nice big in breath. Open your mouth and come back to that mantra of letting go as you release the exhale. All right, walk your hands back towards your feet. We're going to come in for that rag doll. So once your hands get closer to your feet, find that nice healthy bend to your knees. So we're supporting your spine as we're dropping forward. You're reaching for those opposite elbows, dropping the crown of your head. This is all about decompressing the spine. We've got that sweet, sweet tug on the backs of your legs. Again, that posterior chain moving from the soles of your feet, up the backs of your legs, around the glutes, down the back, all the way releasing the tension in the neck, releasing the tension in your low back. Let's see if we can drop the crown of your head so that your gaze is back towards your legs. And we might come right back into that mantra of let go, let go, let go. Maybe do a little bit of sweet swaying side to side here if that feels good for you, or if you'd rather just pause in stillness, right? That's an option as well. Let go, let go, let go. All right, from here, let's come back to center. You're going to bend your knees enough to get your hands all the way back to the floor. Start to walk yourself back into your downward facing dog. And when you recognize downward facing dog, let's pause again and do a nice big in breath and a nice open mouth exhale, remembering that downward facing dog is a little bit of a spinal reset. And then we're all going to lift our heels and come way up onto the ball mounds of our feet. Lower your knees all the way back to the mat. You can set your hips back towards your heels for just a moment. Swing your legs around. And let's come back to facing the long edge of the mat. And we're going to come right back into bound angle. And we're going to set this whole thing up for the second side. So soles of your feet are together, knees are out wide, hands are to your shins, and we've got this beautiful negative space between the legs, this big diamond shape. Harken back to the direction that you were moving when we started. I was going in a counterclockwise, so I'm going to start to go clockwise. And you are also going to go the opposite direction of the direction that you started in. I always like to remind us that we always start in our innate movement pattern. So whatever direction you're heading in now, it's probably not your natural way of moving. So this direction might feel a little less fluid, right? A little more choppy. Maybe as we're moving and we're stretching through the inner thighs and rolling around on the glutes and finding a little posterior and anterior tilt to the pelvis, maybe as all of this happens, we have some intention to smoothing out the edges, right? Really starting to get present with what's going on in our bodies. And if we're noticing that some areas just have less fluidity, maybe we slow down and we bring some intention to bringing movement to that entire range of motion. We're going to do a few more of these intentional torso circles. And then start to bring yourself back to center. And we're going to keep that right leg in the external rotation. Go ahead and lift the left knee and then internally rotate the left leg. So we're coming into deer pose, second side. So again, we're going to start by setting up the deer pose. You're bringing the sole of your right foot to the left knee. And then once you have the deer pose, now we'll take it into the 90-90. So you're going to open up that shin. Let's see if we can get them paralleling. So shin, that tibia fibia bone parallels your femur bone. Notice again that you probably have more weight this time on your right sitting bone and some space here underneath your left. I can actually slide my hand under there. And let's just see our range of motion here. What does it mean to kind of drop that left sitting bone and then rock it back to the right? And just start to rock side to side. And maybe we start to notice that we had more range of motion on one side than the other. Maybe they're pretty evenly balanced. Maybe we have a lot of range of motion. Maybe we have just a little range of motion, right? This is somatic movement. So you're kind of moving in a way that is exploratory in your body. Let's take a few more moments here. And then I'm going to meet you in our starting point. So you most likely have more weight on that right sitting bone. Again, we're thinking about the sternum, the place where the ribs meet in the front here. You're going to turn so that your sternum is directly over your femur bone on that right side. And we're going to find this folding forward. Again, just looking for that first sign of resistance, right? So if we push ourselves too far, too fast, our body has a contracting capacity. It'll contract to hold on for dear life. And that's not exactly our mantra right now. Our mantra is the opposite of that, which is letting go, not holding on for dear life. So just come to your edge, the place where you can breathe, adjust your head again so that we're honoring the length in the back of the neck as well as in your back. Nice big in-breath. Nice open mouth exhale. Let go, let go, let go. All right, let's go ahead and use those hands for some support. As you start to walk yourself back up, we're going to come back into the deer pose. So right foot comes back in. And then from here, we're taking that left leg and we're going to swing it out and around so that your left shin comes in front of your right. We're going to do one more side body stretch, but this time just a little bit different. Nice big inhale. Sweep those arms out wide and up. We're going to drop that left hand back to the floor again. You're going to walk your left hand out to the left, but this time we're going to keep your forearm up off the floor. And this time you are going to bring some intention towards dropping anchor with that right sitting bone. And as you do that, you might notice that you get a little bit longer on your right side body. All right, we're going to drop that left ear to your left shoulder. Start to bring that right arm up towards the sky. And then just keep going with that right arm and going and going and going until your right arm is just a little bit lower than the line of your shoulder. We've got that nice big tug through the side of the neck, across the top of the shoulders, down through your arms, maybe feeling that all the way into the palm of your hand. Pause here for just another moment. This is that superficial myofascial release, right? Tugging on that layer of fascia that lies just below the skin. You're going to keep your left ear to your shoulder, and I always like to say this twice because I really mean it. Keep your left ear to your left shoulder. Start to slide that left hand back in. Bring your left hand to your cheek, and with a whole bunch of love and support, lift your head. Bring it back on top of your spine. And let's just take this to the second side. Nice big in-breath, sweeping arms out wide and up. Keeping that left arm reaching up, let your right hand come down. Start to slide that right hand out. Keep the forearm up. Bring some intention towards dropping that left sitting bone. Notice again if we're overarching the back to be here. And if we are, can we gently engage some of that front core? So just a little pulling in of your navel. All right, let that right ear drop to your right shoulder. Left arm goes up and it just keeps traveling until your hand is a little bit lower than the line of your shoulder. We start to come in for that big, delicious tug of the fascia, right? Remembering that your fascia is a responsive tissue. It responds to force. So whether we're tugging or contracting or shearing or twisting, all of those movements, all of those stresses, healthy stresses to the tissue, help the tissue respond by sweeping up, sucking up a bunch more hydration. All right, keep your ear to your shoulder as you start to drag that right hand back in. And again, you're going to take your right hand to your right cheek. Lift your head so your neck doesn't have to do any work. And then from here, release. All right, we're going to go ahead and take this into our second shape here. So you're going to start to bring that left knee back up. We're going to take the left knee back to the sole of that right foot. So you're back in your deer pose. This time, both hands are going to plant probably towards the opposite side of your mat here, but still 10 fingertips shining towards the short end. We're going to pause here. We'll do one more neck and shoulder release so you can drop the left ear to the left shoulder. Start to roll your chin down towards your sternum and then take right ear to right shoulder. Roll your chin back to your sternum. One more time, take left ear to left shoulder. And then this time we'll pause. We'll meet each other with the chin towards your sternum. So you're gazing inward. Lift your head, place it back on top of your spine. And then think about that left leg, back leg. You're going to stretch it back. You're going to roll in the direction of the ball mound of your foot. Press through your hands, lift your hips. And then step your right foot back. Lift your hips up and back. Come back into your downward facing dog. Do another nice big in-breath. Nice open mouth exhale. And we're going to do one more ragdoll here. So you're going to start to walk your hands back towards your feet. Remember, when you get your hands back there, you're finding that liberal bend to your knees. Reaching for those opposite elbows. We're going to do a little deeper low back release here. So do a bigger bend into your right knee. Take the right elbow to touch your right leg wherever it touches. Lift the left elbow like you're looking underneath, playing peekaboo. That's going to give us a big, big stretch into your low back area of your IT band, even a little into your outer hips here. And then bring this back to center and let's go to the other side. Nice exaggerated bend on the left. Bring your left elbow to touch your left leg. Lift the right elbow, look underneath. All right, from here, bring it all the way back to center. You're going to release those hands, bend your knees enough to get your hands to the floor. Start to walk those hands forward again until you recognize your downward facing dog. Do another nice big in-breath. A nice open mouth exhale with that mantra of letting go. And then we're going to lift your heels, come up onto the ball mounds of your feet, lower your knees all the way back to the mat. And this time, we're going to set your hips back towards your heels. Come into that embryo pose. Let's start to walk your arms over to the left. See if you can root your hands to the floor and let your hips drop to the right. And then we'll bring hips and arms back to center. Take your arms to the right. Let your hips drop to the left. Good. Bring it all the way back to center. And for the briefest of moments, you're going to walk your hands back towards your legs. We're coming into that kneeling position, but of course, we're going to come onto your right or left hip. Swing your legs around in front. Start to lower yourself all the way back onto your back. And once you come down, let's walk your feet wide again to the long edges of your mat. Let your knees drop in towards center. Come back to that mantra. Let go, let go, let go. Find one more round of breath here. And then we're going to start to heel toe your feet back in so they're hip distance apart. Open your arms out into a T. Bring your knees in towards your chest and just really gently start to circle your knees together this time. Kind of circling around your sacrum. Maybe we even imagine we had an imaginary clock painted around the outer edges of your sacrum, and you're bringing a little bit of movement to each number on the clock. And then circle the other way a couple of times. And then go ahead and release your feet all the way to the floor. We're going to stretch your legs all the way out on the mat. I'm going to have you bring your arms down into more of a 45-degree angle. Palms are facing up. Feet are just a little bit wider than hip distance apart. You're going to make any little shifts or adjustments that you need to be able to settle into a place of ease in your corpse pose, in your Shavasana. And then I want you to just close your eyes and start to take your awareness to your pelvis. Begin to imagine that you're lying on a hot, sandy beach and you're feeling the indentation of the back of your pelvis in the sand. Notice the right side. Notice the indentation that the right side is making in the sand. And then notice the left. We might start to notice that the two halves of the pelvis are resting in the warm sand, similar yet different in some ways. And then do this with your shoulder blades. Go up to the shoulder blades. Notice the way that your right shoulder blade makes an indentation in that warm sandy beach. And then notice the way that the left shoulder blade rests. Notice the right, notice the left. Maybe there's more weight to one side or more weight to the other. Maybe it kind of matches the way that your pelvis is resting. Or maybe it's different. Maybe your right side of your pelvis is heavier, but your left shoulder blade is heavier. This is just an act of noticing, so we don't need to shift or change. We might start to notice the way that the base of your skull is resting, making a nice divot in that hot sandy beach. And then maybe we begin to notice the back of our necks. We notice the way that the back of our neck moves away from our hot, sandy beach. So you're going to take your invisible, imaginary hands and you're going to scoop up a bunch of that hot sand. You're going to put it underneath the back of your neck so that we can really start to release the neck, letting go into the warmth of that sand, the support of the sand, the way it shapes itself to meet us. And then you can travel down into your thoracic spine and notice that the thoracic spine again dips down into the sand, making an imprint. But then towards the bottom of the rib cage, it starts to move away from the sand. So you're going to grab those imaginary hands again and you're going to scoop a bunch of hot sand underneath your lumbar spine and your low back so that that whole part of your body feels support, it feels warm. It also feels like it can begin to let go into the support of that hot, sandy beach. Notice the way that your sacrum dips back down into the sand. But the area right below your glutes lifts away, so you can put a little more sand there. And then the hamstrings dip down, but the space at the backs of the knees move away, so put a little more hot sand there. Calves dip back down, but the area around the Achilles tendon lifts away, so more hot sand there. And then the heel bones, your calcaneus, dip back down into the sand. And before we know it, our whole back body is supported. Our whole back body is supported. And we can let go, let go, let go. Whether you are using this practice in the morning where we might want to have a little shorter shavasana, or maybe this class is late afternoon where we have a little more time to kind of drop into an 8 or 10 minute shavasana. This is the beautiful thing about the recording. You can decide how long you'd like to be here. I am going to leave you in this place and say namaste.